What is going on, gunfighters, aspiring gunfighters, little ones that dream one day of being a gunfighter? Welcome to Gunfighter Life, the podcast where we talk about guns, gunfighting, tactics, ballistics, survival, the right way, with God at the center, Judeo-Christian values, and real-world first-hand experience. This week's going to be a little bit different. I did a series of short episodes. So if you're listening to this episode as a one-off, because this is the only thing you're interested in, that's fine. But realize it's part of a mini-series on lesser talked about, overlooked survival options. Talking about the quasi SBR 22. Talking about pistol conversion kits. The 22 Magnum. The 308 rifle paired with a 22 handgun. So just realize that. Being subscribed helps. That way you get these in order. And when they come out. If you're a regular listener, don't forget about Patreon if you want to become a patron. Also, if you don't want to sign up for a monthly subscription, I get that. There's some a la carte stuff on there. I get asked all the time about practical shooting drills. Well, I just did a video on there that's a bunch of clips of practical real-world handgun shooting drills. You know, that probably will pay for itself if you put those into practice and practice those instead of just going to the range and turning money into noise. You know, what's a box of ammo cost? Anyway, those are on sale. If you go to the shop on Patreon, you don't have to become a member. You can just buy it. And check out some other cool stuff that's in the shop as well. With that, I'm going to throw in a bio for this, and then I will plug in the mini-series episode. If you notice different audio quality, guys, I'm working 2 jobs. I'm doing the podcast and working as a private security contractor. So the audio quality, while not superb, hopefully is bearable. Just a little caveat there. Enjoy the episode. Blessed to have served in the military, law enforcement, combat veteran, private contractor, competition shooter, lifelong hunter, guide. Blessed by God that He got me through all those things so I could share this firsthand training, knowledge, experience with you to serve you today. Let's dive into the podcast. What is going on? Let's talk about the little shotgun that can. The 410. And what I'm going to call like a mini-series of lesser discussed survival options. The 410 is awesome. Maybe I have a soft spot for the 410 since I grew up hunting with it, since it was the first gun that I ever had. An old bolt action Mossberg 410 with an adjustable choke. Thing long enough to be mistaken for a Mosin Nagant at a distance. Thing was a tactical telephone pole that wasn't very tactical. But I sure loved running around the woods of the South as a poor boy, putting meat on the table with the old 410. And it's a great gun. Not that one specifically. I'm not telling you to run out and get that one. But let's talk about the 410 as a survival option. Most of the listeners I have, I believe, live east of the Mississippi because like 80% of the U.S. population lives on that very small piece of America, the east of the Mississippi landmass. And east of the Mississippi, riddle me this. What can you not kill with a 410? East of Mississippi, nothing, right? A good 410 Bernecki slug, not a Foster slug, but even a Foster slug will do it. I hunt a deer. That's the gun that I had when growing up. But a Foster slug is okay. A Bernecki slug in a 410 is not bad at all. It's nothing to sneeze at. And if you're talking about defense or close-in deer hunting, you're telling me that 5 spheres of triple aught buck, because they stack in in a single column. So you get 5 spheres, 5 projectiles of triple-aught buck out of a common 410 buckshot load. You're telling me 5 pellets of that triple-aught buck at 410 velocity is not enough? And then tell me about how powerful your 10mm handgun is or whatever? Like, it's laughable. The 410 is absolutely enough for anything east of the Mississippi. Now, if you go west and you talk about elk or okay, maybe if you're talking about you live in upper UP of Michigan and there's moose. Is that east of the Mississippi? I think it's west. Forgive my geography. No, it's east. It's east. So maybe if you go to the upper UP, maybe a moose, you could certainly kill it with a 410, but it wouldn't be ideal. But shy of that, you got me on that one. Shy of that, unless you live in the upper UP of Michigan, east of the Mississippi, what can you not kill with the 410? Why would you pick it over the 12 gauge or the 20 gauge? I guess the question is, why would I pick it over the 12 or the 20? And the short answer is I wouldn't. That's why it's not my bug out gun. However, let me make a case for it here. One of the big downfalls of the shotgun, when people say, you got to pick one gun for the end of the world, long gun at least, because that's all you're going to be able to carry in your bug out bag, your bob for SHTF and Tiawaki. We love the acronyms, right? It makes us feel cool or something, I guess. But when the peanut butter and chocolate hits the fan and you can only have one long gun, the 410 generally is quite a bit lighter. Maybe not that old bolt action that I have with a who knows how long of a barrel, but a super lightweight, let's say if you're comparing fairly comparable guns, I think it's the Mossberg like 510 or 5 something Bantam 410 to a 12 gauge 500. It's quite a bit lighter. The gun itself is lighter. Also, the ammunition is quite a bit lighter than your standard 12 gauge. Now here's one of the reasons I wouldn't pick it, because the 12 gauge short shell is a thing. And 12 gauge short shells, although not as varying as in different loadings as a 410, there's a lot of different on the market now 12 gauge short shells. And I don't know if a full 410 load or a 12 gauge short shell weighs more or less, but it'd be pretty close. But for standard loads, the 410 is quite a bit lighter. It's also going to be smaller and easier to pack. Next time you go to Walmart, and if your local Walmart doesn't sell guns and ammo, probably you live in the wrong place. But go just pick up a box of 25 rounds of 410 and a box of 25 rounds or of 12 gauge or 20 gauge. It's quite a bit smaller and handier. Also, unlike something like the 28 gauge, because of the proliferation of the revolvers that fire 410, like the Judge and the Governor, there are quite a bit of cool and innovative, and I would say probably a much more effective out of a 410 shotgun than out of that revolver, defensive loads. There's the disc loads, there's like the slug and buckshot loads, I think, for the 410. There's straight up slug loads. There are the buckshot loads that we talked about. And obviously the 410 excels at small game hunting, right? And if you're talking about actual, you live east of the Mississippi and you're trying to forage and feed yourself, you're probably much more likely to be able to do that with small game than large game, right? If you look at what happened to the deer population during the Depression and look at what the population east of the Mississippi was in the 1930s, then look at what it is now. And look at what the population is now. And look at what would happen, if fish and game laws no longer applied and just 10% of the population picked up whatever gun they had and went into the woods. You're probably way more likely to get shot over a deer than maybe to feed yourself with venison if you live east of the Mississippi. Even if you're like, well, I live in a rural area of the East Coast, whatever, if you even want to defend that position. Okay, well, what do you think is going to happen to all the cities, DC, Philadelphia, Atlanta, pick your areas, big cities, when people there are starving? They're probably going to walk out of those cities. Again, even if a small percentage of them have a gun and think they're going to hunt deer, what's that going to do to the woods and the deer near your area? So, and also, how are you going to preserve that meat in Atlanta when it's 102? So maybe small game is a better plan. And the 410 is great at small game. And if you're shooting, we're not talking about sport hunting here. You probably don't want to be shooting ducks out of the air. You probably want to wait till they land and sneak up on them and shoot them on the water. Hopefully 2 with 1 shot or 3 with 1 shot if you can get it. So, the shotgun excels at the small game. So, the 410 is great for that. So, it's acceptable for defense. It's a great small game getter, and it's lighter. So, that's a case to be made for the 410. I'm not saying that it's the best survival gun ever. It's not my pick. I don't even own a 410 anymore. The 410 that I had as a kid, it was given to me, so it seemed only fitting. It was passed down to me by an uncle, so it seemed only fitting to pass that down to a nephew. So I don't even have it. Right? So that said, it's a good choice. It's not the worst choice ever. In fact, depending on if there's no caveats, right? Because I'm such a big proponent of the shotgun. In certain scenarios, if you offer me a 410 pump with a variety of different ammo, or an AR-15, and I have several AR-15s, but for this kind of scenario, if it was between those two, it would be a really hard choice. And if I had no information, I'd say it's a toss-up. Now, if you give me some information, like whatever geographical area I'm in, or the area study, or the actual scenario that's unfolding, I may go one way or the other. But if you just said no information, you don't know what kind of disaster it is, but massive, large-scale disaster, and we're going to drop you in a random location in the U.S., pick an AR-15 or pick a 410, again, I think flip a coin. It probably is, it's not a horrible choice, because as much as I like ARs and train with ARs and have made my living for swaths of time with an AR, not great for not great for hunting. Can you shoot a deer with it? Yeah, but you can also shoot a deer with a 410. So it's also not great for taking small game if you want to eat the small game. It'll certainly kill something, but it's not great for it if you want to eat it. Right? Probably a lot better, taking doves and quail and grouse and snipe and all manner of things like that. Pigeons. Talking about an urban environment with a 410 than with an AR-15. So just some thoughts there. It would be a toss-up. And there's lots of situations, don't get me wrong, where I would take an AR-15 if I'm trying to bug out of a major city and I'm more likely to, have to deal with people behaving badly. Yeah, give me the AR-15. But again, if you don't give me any other caveats, the 410 is, I think, often overlooked, which is kind of the theme of this little mini-series, overlooked survival options. The 410. It's a compelling case. You can go all the way from super light bird shot, number 8 shot, 7.5 cerebral common 6 shot for your larger small game like pheasant size, up to waterfowl, and again up to your medium sized game and defensive loads. So it's an intriguing option. And there are not as many options, perhaps, for ammo as there is with a 12 gauge, or as many shotgun options as there are with a 12 gauge or a 20 gauge, but it's lighter. The other kind of disadvantage is if you're comparing small shotguns, 20 gauge versus 410, the 20 gauge is smaller than the 12, bigger than the 410, but the ammo is quite a bit cheaper. The ammo is quite a bit cheaper than 410. 410, although it's the smallest, we're talking about small game, I just saw a beautifully delicious covey of quail. Getting distracted there. They look delicious and I'm hungry. So, where was I? Oh, the 410, although it's the smallest of the gauges, it's often the most expensive of the ammo. So that's kind of a thing there. Now, if you're planning on bugging out and you can only take what you can carry with your Lamborghinis and your leather personnel carriers, your boots, and your bug out bag, it's really kind of a moot point. If it costs you $30 more to load up your kit with the ammo you can carry, that's not really a big deal, right? I mean, and if you're bugging in, you probably have a small battery of guns. So I don't know how big a deal that is. Again, if you're stockpiling for your retreat, you're probably not just going to have a 410. So you probably don't need to stockpile thousands of rounds of 410 ammo. It's probably a bug out option. So for that, does it really matter if it costs you 30 or 50 more bucks for the ammo that you can carry over a 12 gauge? Probably not even worth being a thing. So it is an intriguing option. It is a cool option. It is, I think, an underappreciated option. So the little 410, it can get a lot done for such a small shotgun, and it has a lot of the versatility of the shotgun with lighter weight. Just some thoughts there. Just, kick it around the old mental, gymnastics for the apocalypse and see what pops out. See if it's right for you in your area, in your situation, or maybe for somebody else in your group. Anyway, with that, the 410. I appreciate you guys. Your tactical tip of the day: shotguns. If you have birdshot and you need to make a slug, you can do that. If you need to do it on the fly, you can make something called a cut shell. Look that up. If you blow yourself up or your gun up because you're trying to do it through the wrong gun or too tight a choke, if you hurt yourself for somebody else, that's your fault, not mine. I'm not recommending that you do this. I'm saying that it's possible. I know I miss my calling as a lawyer. But a cut shell, you can make those on the fly, and you can turn birdshot into quasi kind of a slug. Not as good as a slug, but in a pinch, if you had to use it for defense, I'd rather have a cut shell than birdshot. So there's that. Also, if you have more time and you need to convert birdshot to slugs, you can look at something called a wax slug, kind of congealing those smaller pellets into one massive projectile, at least until it hits the target. So you got some options there. It'll work with the 410 as well as other gauges. That's your tac tip of the day, your tactical verse of the day. From Psalm 91. I shall not be afraid of the terror by night, nor of the arrow that flies by day, nor the pestilence that walks in darkness, nor the destruction that lays waste at noonday. 1,000 may fall at my side, 10,000 at my right hand, but it shall not come near me.